Okay, welcome back to the DBT Football Podcast. Our main focus on today will be about Pedri's injury and the broader injury crisis at Barcelona and the future steps that the club should take to deal with this crisis.
Yeah, so this is episode two, and just today, like in the morning, we found out that Pedri suffered a muscle injury. I'm pretty sure his leg, and the estimated time of his injury should be around like people are saying like 4 to 7 weeks, so somewhere in that time range. And we know that Barcelona have some very important fixtures during that time range. For example, there's Chelsea on November 25th, which he may miss. There was also the Atleti game, which he may miss. So that's something to like consider looking at Pedri, considering that he has been, in my opinion, and probably many other Barcelona fans, Pedri's been the best like Barcelona player and the most important, considering his duties as a midfielder and the kind of impact he has with Barcelona and how they control the tempo, he controls the midfield. And so yeah, we're just gonna talk about how him being injured and out for those games, how will it affect Barcelona's games for the next like few months, and also how it could have a overall impact on the rest of the season.
Yeah, so as you did mention, it's an injury to Pedri's left thigh, and it could leave him. The early reports were saying around 3 to 4 weeks, but then new reports were saying that it could even extend up to 6 to 7 weeks. So yeah, he's gonna miss many important matches in La Liga and in the Champions League, including Club Brugge, as you mentioned, Chelsea, and maybe even if it's in the worst situation against Frankfurt. So yeah, it's some really bad news, and this just adds to Barcelona's current injury crisis, as we mentioned in the last video, where the likes of Christensen, Joan Garcia, Ter Stegen, Dani Olmo, Gavi, Raphinha, and Lewandowski have been injured for so long.
Just to note, we did see that in the morning today. I believe Dani Olmo and Lewandowski have returned to training. So, I mean, that's something to look forward to. Add to the attacking depth because we know that recently the attacking depth has been pretty dry, whereas forced Flick to call up Tony Fernandez and Dro like to like play minutes. So that's something to note.
Okay, and yeah, in recent weeks we've seen that the injury crisis has affected the overall performance of Barcelona's matches and how they perform throughout a game. But if you remember last season, it was almost like every game Barcelona would tend to dominate with many goals. And it just felt, even if they conceded a lot of goals and even if their defense was not at the highest level, they would just easily, with no hassle, they just score many more goals than their opponents. But it just seems that because of the injuries this season, the attack isn't able to fully take their chances and be clinical.
Yeah, so as you mentioned with the attack, yeah, the attack hasn't really been like, clinical, and I guess with the current injuries, we kind of lose that synergy that we had like Barcelona lost the synergy they had last season, where that front three of like Raphinha, Lewandowski, and Lamine is very like they worked very well together, and it was like the attack team's so strong. And this season we don't really see that. And even though Barcelona are still like scoring goals, especially early in the season, Barcelona are still scoring goals. But right now, it seems the attack is a bit like, in my opinion, like displaced a bit. Like it just doesn't seem as strong. And even like we look at like Lamine Yamal, who you saw last season was a great form. Recently, his form has been very like it's been shaky in my opinion because we saw last game the El Clasico. He wasn't doing the things that we saw Lamine Yamal do last season. Wasn't taking on his man, and definitely the miss of Raphinha. And even for the past few games, Raphinha's presence is very important because he's one of Flick's flaw. Like one of the main parts of Flick's philosophy is like the high press and high intensity, and Raphinha is the definition of that. He has like so much passion and intensity that he would give a lot of strength to Barcelona's attack and the pressing against the opposing defense and keeper. So yeah, definitely. With him out, Barcelona kind of lose that, and it affects the overall performance, in my opinion. Losing a key player like that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, in my personal opinion, Pedri has been Barcelona's best player this season, most consistent, even last season. But yeah, why could this overall situation be happening in the first place? I just feel it's a mixture of the fixture congestion and the heavy match schedule for our players. So even before we got to know about this Pedri injury, we could just I was noticing in games that he was feeling exhausted and he just couldn't like be able to deal with the physical nature of the game in the later minutes of matches. But it just felt like Flick didn't have any other options off the bench because of how depleted our depth is, our squad depth. So it just felt like he had to play Pedri, and this is similar to even Yamal and Ferran Torres, who were almost just rushed back in to the in the important games for Barcelona, even if they weren't 100% fully fit. And yeah, it's just the major problem for this squad because it feels even if players come back off injury, they're forced straight away into the lineup, and it just I feel it hurts the players even more, maybe extending their injuries. And I just feel like even if like right now, God forbid, but even if the likes of Yamal get more injured because they're being forced to play full 90s, even if they're not fully fit, and yeah, even if the players like Fermin or someone gets injured, it's not looking good for this whole squad situation. And after this recent Clasico, Barcelona is already 5 points behind Real Madrid in the La Liga. So yeah, it's gonna be really important for Flick to sort out his situation right now and I guess use his squad properly.
Yeah, I agree with that one point you mentioned where you said that players that come back from injury, they're kind of forced to play. And yeah, we said if we had Barcelona, right? Barcelona have like certain players that are like they have to be starters because like they're that good. And then when they come back from injury, they kind of have to play. Like they have to kind of start and like somehow get integrated to team back in the team, right? And so I mean, when Pedri's back, we're probably gonna see Pedri kind of have to play, right? Especially if Barcelona are struggling performance wise. Like if you notice that without him, then when he's back, he may have to start immediately. And we did see also in the recent games when Lamine Yamal came back from injury, you can still see that when he's playing, he's not really at his 100% like yeah, like he's not 100% recovered, and so he's kind of forced to play. Coming back from an injury, he's not 100%, and it's probably part of the reason why he hasn't been performing as well because he has still some like, discomfort, and he even like reported I believe a few days ago that he's still feeling more like discomfort from the area that he was like injured in. And I think another thing to consider is the international breaks and how that can also have effect on certain players, especially with Barcelona and just the Spanish players. We noticed that for mainly Lamine Yamal and Pedri, they're probably Spain like one of the most like Spain's like most talented players, so they kind of have to play. And the manager Nicola Fuente, he wants to play them, and we kind of seen with like his behavior that he didn't really care about their fitness. He's gonna play them just because he knows how good they are, but he doesn't really take into account like their health and like how if they're playing so many minutes and they're not getting rest, that he's gonna still play them, and that can lead to injury, which it more so affects Barcelona more than Spain because they're playing for Barcelona majority of the season, and I mean even with World Cup coming up, it still kind of ruins their season because they don't get to play for their club if they're injured, and it actually hurts Spain more because if they can't play for their club, then it'll be hard for them to kind of readjust into the national team because they're not going to have that playing time experience. So that's something important.
Yeah, and overall, like what Flick can do right now, I guess just rotate the squad for these less important games, maybe in teams against like Elche or games against like Club Brugge in the Champions League. I just feel like he has to rotate the squad, try newer players, even maybe incorporate some more La Masia players, the likes of Tony Fernandez, Joe, maybe. But yeah, I think an important thing to also discuss is like what Barcelona should do in the January transfer window, because we've seen that like guys like Gahey are maybe leaving on a free. I heard last summer Schlotterbeck was linked to Barca. But so yeah, I think our midfield and defense is really weak right now. So signing a player like Gahey in the winter transfer window would severely help the squad. And if there are any other free agents available, I think it's important for Barcelona to look into. But yeah, I think as we mentioned before, it's important that Barcelona do not rush players in. I guess focusing on player recovery, because even when Flick brought in Gavi, I liked how he brought him into back into the lineup because he would just give him like 10 minutes at the end of the games and slowly increase the time that Gavi got on the pitch. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. But I just liked how Flick handled that Gavi situation at first. But yeah, I think this obviously hampers Barcelona's situation currently, and I guess it's important for the club to look into how they can handle the situation and not, I guess, limit the damage that's going to be done to the season overall. So limit the damage, maybe the point lead behind Madrid. So keep it at 5 points and maybe even close down the gap if possible. And going into the new year, I guess keeping their top spots in the group stage of the Champions League. So that's going to be the most important thing for Barca to do.
Yeah, and I think I agree with the solution that I mean, one possible way is to again go to La Masia and get players like to fill in those gaps that are needed, so that with this like injury crisis, the Barca still have players and like talented players to play, especially in like games that aren't as intense. Something not like a big game like El Clasico or like a game where it's like Atletico Madrid. And it also is a benefit in a way because doing that will give those younger players in La Masia experience in the top league versus the top players in the Liga, possibly even the UCL. So, they kind of get experience from that, which can definitely help a lot with their development. And who knows, we can see like a gem that fits well into the first team and consistently plays. So that can always be a possibility. And you also mentioned the winter, like the January window, and I mean, we've seen so many reports of Deco saying like there won't be any January signing, so we're kind of not sure like if Barcelona will actually make a signing or not. And we also need to look at like what position has to be like reinforced. Like, should it be the striker position? Should it be like the center backs? Because we know that Barcelona, we're looking at center backs like Gahey is one of them, Inacio is one of them, Slaughterbeck, Barcelona, even though it's kind of unrealistic. And strikers, there's like Young, who I'm not sure if he'll join the winter, but he's definitely like an option that Barcelona want to look for possibly in the future. And then I saw a report earlier today that Barcelona wanted to probably get Osimhen, which I'm not sure how that would work, but that's just like an option, I guess, that could be explored. And I mean, the midfield, I'm not sure if the midfield needs to be strengthened really, but this Pedri injury, like, it goes to show that if like someone like Pedri Young's injured, then the midfield does look very weak. But I'm not sure what kind of midfielder Barca could even sign in like the winter. I think it would be better to look at Casado and Bernal and try to get them to play because they're both very talented. And we've seen Casado last season; he can easily start for this team if someone like De Jong or Pedro are absent. Bernal can also definitely get some minutes. He's very talented as well. I really like him as a player. I think he could do well. You could also see potentially Eric Garcia or Christensen DM fifth. That could be pretty interesting. So there's a lot of experimentation that Flick can do with Barcelona. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on what Flick does, and I think judging last season, we can kind of trust that Flick knows what's best for this team and how and like whatever like, his way of dealing with it, it should help Barcelona. So yeah, in the meanwhile, during this injury crisis, probably wait for players like Raphinha, Pedri, to come back. We have to see how Barcelona deal with like the La Liga and UCL games. So yeah, the game versus Elche on Sunday this week is pretty important, and the Club Brugge game. And yeah, Barcelona definitely is fight for the top in the UCL because it would be kind of useless to play the with the qualifier games because that just adds to more minutes and games that players have to play for Barcelona. So that could even amount to even more risk of injury. And yeah, closing the gap against Madrid is like very crucial. It's good to close that gap at the start of the season. But even anything can change though, because we saw last season that Madrid were up at 10 points at a point. I think like in January or something. Like Madrid were up 10 points last season, and we know who won the league after Barcelona still won the league. So yeah, that's just important to know that you just can't drop 20 points. So yeah.
But yeah, it just looks highly unlikely that Madrid are going to be able to drop points this season. They've been looking solid. And even if they aren't performing at like the best level, it just seems that they're able to grind out wins in La Liga. So yeah, it's still going to be really important for Barca to take their chances when they can. Going back to the transfer things you were talking about, so yeah, Osimhen I don't think is as realistic, but I feel like he would be a good fit for Barca. There's also this young striker from Ligue 1, Anicheli, who's Argentinian, plays for Strasbourg. I heard a lot about him, so he might also be interesting to look into. But he is a part of Chelsea's project, so it might be hard for him for us to sign him from Chelsea or Strasbourg. But yeah, I just feel like the Pedri injury was pretty inevitable because it just seemed like he needed to take a break, but he just wasn't able to. He kept being forced to play these full 90s. And as you said, yeah, we might have to be seeing Eric Garcia or Christensen even playing DM shifts because of the lack of depth in the squad right now. But yeah, overall, any other thoughts?
I pray Pedri gets well soon. It's so sad because I don't know. Pedri like is so consistent. Like he's definitely the most consistent Barcelona player, and I feel like if you're a Barcelona fan, you feel safe with Pedri in the starting lineup as a midfielder because you know what this guy's capable of. You know he like he'll control the midfield, but without his presence, we don't know how Barcelona can really do. I mean, De Jong's still very good, but you know, having De Jong, Pedri alongside De Jong is a lot more stronger. So yeah, losing like he's basically the best midfielder in the world. So losing that for a long like 4 weeks is a long time. Like that's still like a lot of fixtures. So it's a very crucial moment for Barcelona to like look to recover. And you know, yeah, Barca's also losing like even the Raphinha without Raphinha, it's still kind of like we see Barcelona's attack is not that strong as well. So it's unfortunate that Barcelona are losing key players in key positions because otherwise, I think the recent results would be a lot different. Like Barcelona probably would be in better form, so and that can definitely contribute to just how the season goes. So really, Barcelona just have to look to find a good solution to this and then yeah, just move forward with the season. Hopefully, it turns to be a success. Today the Copa del Rey started, so that's a competition that Barcelona should look into winning. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, losing Pedri is going to be a big issue for Barcelona, arguably the best midfielder in the world. So it's going to be important to see how Flick adjusts to this injury crisis and who he starts in the upcoming games. But yeah, leave your comments down in the below. Who do you think our next steps should be? Who should be included in the lineups in the future? And what are your takes on Flick's options right now?
Yeah, thank you guys. See ya.
Thank you for watching. Bye.